Yeah. If anyone is watching this in later on, I'm just waiting for people to log in. I never tell anyone when I'm going to go live. I just go live off of a whim and see whoever's out there. Right now, we're 35 seconds in and no one is out there. Oh, no, someone's here. Hello, whoever you are. We are just waiting for a few more people to show up, and then we will get started. We have 6 people here. Hello, everybody. I don't know if anyone's leaving comments. I can't see them. We have someone left already. Douglas. Mr. Burton, how are you, sir? It's you like chicken hearts too? I'm supposed to be talking about, how I have a plate of gizzards and chicken hearts coming here in just a minute. Mariah's frying them up right now, and we're supposed to be talking about how chicken hearts are good to eat, not to have, to live your life that way. I might not go with that though. That might not work. Livers. I'm sorry, Mr. Burton, I can't go there. I don't like the livers. Livers are bait. Livers aren't food. So kind of what I wanted to sort of touch on tonight is the world is, sometimes we say the world is a scary place, and we're talking about, the Iran's got the bomb or something. I'm only seeing Bird and chat. Does anyone else? It says all message. Okay. Hendrick. Hello, Hendrick. Thank you. But right now the world is Douglas can't do chicken hearts. Oh, due to gout. Oh. Sorry to hear that, Douglas. The world is maybe not a dangerous place, but a tumultuous place right now. And we saw some bad omens about our Second Amendment rights happen this last week with Walmart. A few things really. Hey, good evening, Jehoiadek. How are you, sir? There's 2 things that really caught me up short about this whole Walmart thing. The first, here's my chicken hearts and gizzards. I don't know if I can eat gizzards on the live stream though. This may have been a bad idea. Walmart did 2 things that really concern me. One, the one that I think is kind of the most consequences long term, is they used the phrase I've never heard of before. Hey, the lefty gatekeeper's here. Oh, chicken feet. Yeah, I can't do that. I've heard of people around here eating chicken feet too, and I'm not there yet. I've never heard the phrase Walmart used in their release. Anybody want to see the dog? Sergeant. There you are. There you are. Say hello. They used this phrase. They were going to no longer sell short. Thank you, William. They were no longer going to sell short-barreled rifle ammunition. I had never heard that phrase before. Obviously, we've all heard about short-barreled rifles. It's this ridiculous category that the National Firearms Act of 1934 invented. What? That's dog's trying to get in the video. He loves to photobomb us. But I've never heard anyone refer to short-barreled rifle ammunition. I mean, what the heck is that? Any ammo can be shot out of a short-barreled rifle. I used to have a 30-06 with a 16-inch barrel. Felt like a short-barreled rifle to me, but it was a single shot. It was a Ruger number 1. What is a short-barreled rifle ammunition? They're calling it, that's what they're calling 5.56 and 7.62 by 39. Here's what worries me about this new category. Now it becomes something easy to demonize. Now they've got a phrase they can throw at these rounds and say, oh, these are evil rounds. We have to ban these rounds because they're short barrel rifle ammunition rounds, and it becomes something else they can go after. Hey, go lay down. Go on, go. So we are going to hear more about short barrel rifle ammunition for years to come. We're going to be talking about. He still managed to photobomb. Stupid dog. And for a long time now, we're going to start hearing people talk about short barrel rifle on the left. Oh, we got to ban the short barrel rifle ammunition. Short barrel rifle ammunition. Oh, we got to raise the age to buy short barrel rifle ammunition to 100. Or we're going to tax short barrel rifle ammunition, which is not, it's stupid. So is 300 blackout, does it fall into this category? How are you ever going to define this category? Okay, so 7.62 by 39 millimeter is short barreled rifle ammunition. What is 8 millimeter Kurtz? Well, that's a historical round. Well, if you're not familiar with 8 millimeter Kurtz, it was the round that the Nazis developed that the Russians ripped off for the 7.62 by 39. They're very, very similar. Y'all want to see chicken hearts? There's my chicken hearts and gizzards. I love them. So it's a stupid category, but like all things the government does is stupid. And the government's not doing this yet, but the liberals will grab hold of this. Someone gave them a phrase that they can hold on to now because they know nothing about guns. They don't understand guns. They don't care about guns. Somebody said short barrel rifle ammunition, and their fear meter, went from 0 to 100. Actually, it's never at 0. It's probably always at 99. But it went from 99 to 100, and now they've got something to focus on. Oh, we got to ban the short barrel rifle ammunition. Oh, what is it? I don't know, but it sounds terrible. So anyway, the other thing that really bothered me that Walmart did, and I didn't talk, I put out a little video about this that I just, like everything, I just did it off this cuff on the spur of the moment. Hey, 80 on ear. I didn't talk about one of the other really chilling things that the Walmart CEO put out in that statement. He said that they were going to lobby for gun control, stricter gun control, and I think he specifically said assault weapons ban. That's chilling. When one of the most powerful corporations in America is coming after one of our most fundamental rights. Mr. Burden, can you put up the, hey, C103, how are you, sir? The text of the Second Amendment, Mr. Burden, I'm not going to quote it right. It's a well-regulated militia being necessary to a free state. That's necessary to a free state. Necessary to a free state. The rights of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We all think it's about and Mr. Burden can talk about this better than I can. We all think it's about having a rifle. It's not about having a rifle or carrying your pistol or protecting your family. It's about maintaining our free nation, our freedoms, and the guns are incidental to that. Today, to have a well-regulated militia, we need secure communications. We need to be able to resist drones. There's all sorts of things now that go beyond just our rifle to be able to defend our freedoms from our government. I don't think I'm seeing all the chats. Am I missing a lot in the chat, baby?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm just not seeing them. And
I'm
am
making people motion sick.
I making people motion sick? I'm sorry. I'm rocking. This chair is a rocking. Never mind. We won't go there. I have a gizzard and I really want to eat it while it's hot, but I don't know how this is going to work. I'm going to try real quick, and if this is just awful, I won't do it again. There's actually whole categories of videos. I don't remember what they're called, like MSR videos or something, where pretty girls eat quietly. Oh, it's so good. And William Terry just hit the nail on the head. Walmart can't get any more of our money, man. I have if you've never had fried chicken gizzards, you are missing out. Did anybody get the pun in the title, the Duke of Gizzard? Gosh, what would I just say? Oh, Terry is right. Walmart cannot get any of our money, man. Any of our money. I hate to admit it. We have been a Walmart family. It is so easy. It's 5 miles from the house. You just go down there. You get your groceries. You get whatever you need. You go past the gun cabinet and hit the magazine rack on your way out. And that's it. You don't have to go anywhere else for a week. Well, Actually, what ended up happening is we go to Walmart multiple times a week. So we are having to totally revamp our maybe not our lifestyle. Okay, thank you, Burden. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Thank you. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's not about your hunting rifle. It's not about concealed carry or even constitutional carry. It's about ensuring that our government is not capable of oppressing us. Our government desperately wants to be able to oppress us. It is, and as soon as, George Washington himself, George Washington was the guy who wanted every American man to have all the weapons of the infantrymen. He wanted the American man to have access to all the weapons of the infantry. As soon as he was president, he suppressed the revolt. As soon as he got in power, I mean, it doesn't change that he was a great man and did great things. But even he, as soon as he got in there and had the power, he was the one suppressing the militia. It's just the nature of government. If you guys watch what David Byrne's saying about this, he schooled me on all this. Actually, what I'm talking about right now is stuff David told me. He's talking about the operative clause. When you read the Second Amendment, and remember, it's the Second Amendment. It's just the second thing they came up with. It's not, like I said, it's not, the operative clause is not the right to bear arms. The operative clause is the militia securing the free state. The security of the free state, meaning the nation. I'm cribbing off of David's comments right now. That's what our Second Amendment's about. It's not about the gun show loophole, although, I'm not saying that these things aren't important. They are, but we don't want to get focused on, I don't want to give up Granddaddy's Mauser that he brought back from the war. I don't want to give up, Granddaddy's Springfield or Garand. It's not about that. It's about whether or not we're going to be free people living in a free nation. Once you're disarmed, you're no longer free. I tell a story. When I was a young man, I was in the Marine Corps, because I always talk about that. I don't know why that's all I talk about. But we went to Haiti as part of the very tail end of Operation Fairwinds. There wasn't any shooting going on anymore. This was years after the shooting had stopped, but the military force was still there. It was Clinton's. It's a big, long story. But we trained to do VIP training. There was a lot of, VIP escort. We were just goofy infantry and tanker Marines, and they put us all together in this, they called it Delta Company, and sent us down there as a provisional rifle company. And David's talking about something I don't know. Second clause is cautionary clause. Anyway, so they were training us on how to escort VIPs around, because it was during the Clinton administration, and the Clintons were neck deep down there, and there were all the time VIPs coming in. And one of the things they taught us is that if you're the security detail, it doesn't matter if you're escorting the President of the United States. If you feel like the situation is unsecure, you jerk him up and you get him out of there, and you take the ass chewing later. What that indicates, though, is that ultimately, whoever you trust to protect you has ultimate control over you. Whoever protects you, whoever has the right of violence, the monopoly on violence over you, they control you. They oppress you. They are your masters. Hey, the Shield Maiden's here. Shield Maiden, we heard great things about that meetup you did. She has another one coming up. I believe it's the 28th, was it? Shield Maiden, put up the dates for that. She's doing another one on the 28th. Okay. My point being, silly little old private revolting, because I may have been a PFC at that point, but it was early on. If I'd been in charge of that 4-man team escorting President Clinton around Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and he wanted to go there, and I said, no, sir, it's not safe. I jerked his butt up, and we went back to wherever I thought was safe. I was ultimately in control because I had the gun. I was responsible of protecting. Now, that never happened. He never came down. We never actually even did any of that VIP stuff. But the principle is the same. Whoever is responsible for protecting you has authority over you. And if you don't think that's the case, the next time a cop pulls you over, this happened to me not that long ago. I got a seatbelt ticket because I refused to wear a seatbelt. I actually think seatbelts are a good idea. There's nothing wrong with wearing a seatbelt. It's just a principle of the matter. They don't have the right to tell me to wear one. It's a tiny little act of rebellion, but it's mine. And I told them this. I told them, I'm sorry. I call it a freedom tax. I just pay the bill. It's my tax on my freedom to not wear a seatbelt. Uh, and he got mad. He said, why aren't you wearing a seatbelt, sir? And I said, well, it's a stupid law. It's not a good law. You don't have any right to tell me to wear the seatbelt. And every time I did, one time I did this, it was a trainee for this Georgia State Patrol, and he got confused and he went back to the squad car, and the trooper came out and stood like 20 feet away with his hand on his gun. I don't know what were you with me that day? Well, it freaks him out a little bit, but this was another state trooper, and I told him all this, and he said, you know what, get out of the car, sir, we're going to do some sobriety tests. And he just, he was just harassing me because I bucked up to him a little bit, a tiny little bit. I mean, it's not like I was refusing to sign the ticket. He asked me why I wouldn't, and I told him. These gizzards are really good. I hope you men can't hear me crunching. All right, September 28th at Fort Mountain State Park, Pavilion number 7 at 10 a.m. What day of the week is that, Shield Maiden? There's going to be another Viking meet. I heard I wasn't able to go to that one. It was during the day, and I had to be at work. Yes, William, we fry I don't fry the gizzards. My beautiful, beloved wife fries the gizzards. Hey, Food Stamp Sally, how you doing? That's a pretty funny name. Patriot Pop, you caught us live, sir. How are you? I heard great things about Shield Maiden's meeting. I wasn't able to be there. It had a much different flavor. The Atlanta group is a little more gung-ho. It's more, men like me who are trying to pretend like we're still young and men who are actually young. And I think she had a much more, hey, Kevin, how you doing, sir? Kevin's on. I hope your family's doing well. It has a much more, I am told, a much more contemplative, I'm not sure if that's right. Claraline Michelson. Claraline's with us, guys. That EC9S, I have one complaint with it. For those of you who don't know, we got Mariah a pistol to carry, and it's the Ruger EC9S. My understanding is it's an enlargement of the LCP, but I may have that wrong. Maybe that's the Security 6. It's not, the LCP is a little tiny one. The EC9S is a step up from that. And it's a cheap version of another pistol that's also itself pretty cheap, and I can't remember the name of the step up. The step up, the EC9S doesn't have any dots on the sights, and for the type of pistol it is, that's not really a big deal. But still, if I had the chance to go back again, I would buy the slightly more expensive version with the dots on the sights. It's not a pistol for shooting matches or anything, but it's still very difficult to aim. The little black plastic front sight inside the black plastic rear sight, you're just better off pointing and shooting, which is all the pistol's for anyway. But still, for me, it would have been worth to spend I think it was like $50 or $30 or $40 more. Have you ever tried chicken lips? I have never tried chicken lips, Patriot Pop. So the EC9S, if she's not carrying it, sometimes I carry it. I won't have a pistol that my pinky won't fit on, so that's why. Like I wouldn't do the LCP. If I can't get my pinky on the pistol grip, forget it. I'm not interested. But it's still a nice, compact, slim pistol. Are they tougher than woodpecker lips? Nothing's tougher than woodpecker lips. Excuse me. So the short story on the EC9S, it's it's exactly what it's supposed to be. It does its intended role perfectly well at a great price. It's a great little pistol. Uh, if you're not in the market for a budget pistol, it's not for you. But I found one. I don't know what they are now. The one we got, I think I paid $240 for, and then right after that, a guy called me back who had a brand new one. He was a dealer. Said he could get it to me for $217, and he just got back to me too late. But for $217, it's a great pistol. Anyway, what was I talking about before I got off on all that? Oh, Shield Maidens meeting. If you can make Shield Maidens may I try that again? If you can make Shield Maidens meeting, I'm told it's well worth it. The last one was highly spoken of.
This one's on Saturday.
Oh, it's on a Saturday.
And it's about gun safety.
It's about what?
Gun safety.
Then we will most likely be there, Shield Maiden, unless God willing, and the creek don't rise. We will probably be there. And if I am presuming here a little bit, but if you would like me to be involved at all, I would be very happy to be. I love being in front of people, obviously. Burden said some stuff that I missed about the Second Amendment. Yeah, Agenda 21. These two, please forgive me for paying attention to these two women. I apologize that I've wasted any of the time you guys have invested in me on these people. But in the last week, I think I've heard, I don't remember who the third one is, but I've heard two really silly women, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and do I get in trouble for doing the voice? And please forgive me, I am so sorry, but Miley Cyrus, this is the train wreck you can't look away from. Both of these women in the last week or so have said something about not having children because of climate change, which is the dumbest stinking thing I've ever heard. If you honestly think climate change is this horrific problem, then have children and raise them up to think it is so that they will fight the problem. Food Stamp Sally is good enough to shoot the lips off a chicken at 30 yards with a 2-inch .38 revolver. That's pretty good. This is a bizarre statement to me. You believe in something so strongly that you won't do the single most effective thing there is to combat it. Raise up other people who value it, who think the same as you do. You can't convince anybody as much as you can convince the children you raise, which I know sometimes it doesn't feel like it when you're raising them. But ultimately, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will return to it. I don't get people who would not have children in order to accomplish a goal. There's nothing you can do. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's nothing I can possibly do, and there is nothing those two silly little gits can do to affect something than to raise children. And Mariah and I were I don't remember what we were talking about. Just recently, was it today you were talking? Yes, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And grandchildren are a true reward. We have a couple of different sets of children. I had 5 children from my first marriage. I had a child after that with a woman I wasn't married to because life wasn't difficult enough. When we got married, Mariah had 3 daughters, and then we've had 5 together. So we've got all these groups of children. The younger 5 are all homeschooled, but all the rest of them are in public school, including my 3 stepdaughters. And my wife was visiting one of the stepdaughters in school, and there was this poster on this teacher's wall that said, "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." And that's ridiculous for a teacher to have that on her wall, because she's not at home raising her children. She's off not affecting other children who should be at home being affected by their mothers. I'm not saying that you have to homeschool your children. However, a mother who raises up her children and has as much influence in them as she can, that those women do shape the next generation. It sounds so cliche, it's stupid to talk about, but then, we'll say that, and then women will have children, and 6 weeks later they'll be back at some, working for some slave wage somewhere, doing things that impact nothing, that cease to have meaning. The instant they're accomplished, they no longer have meaning. I had a daughter, my oldest daughter. We're not. I love her, but we're. She's not on. She's not on good terms with me. And one of the things she rejects about me is that I believe very strongly in gender roles and male headship and stuff. And she asked me one time, "Is all I'm good for is my uterus?" And I didn't have the answer on tap for her right then, but my answer, if she gave me another chance, to say, "Yes, and that's all I'm good for too. Nothing about me lasts a second past when I die, except these kids. Nothing I do, nothing about me will last 1 second past my death, except my children." And I would expect Mariah to outlive me, obviously, because I robbed the cradle on that one. But anyway.
Jimmy's here.
Hey, Jimmy. I haven't seen you in a while, sir. I was beginning to wonder I'd angered you. It's good to see you. Where was I? Oh. So for these women to say, "Oh, I'm not going to have children," well, there is nothing, especially Miley Cyrus, there is nothing that silly little thing is going to do in her entire life that will even live all the way to her death. And if she wanted to affect this world at all, she would raise, guess whose brother's pickup broke down on the way to get my broke down pickup. Geez, Burden, you're having worse luck than I do. There's nothing that silly little girl will ever do that would be more effectual for her cause than to raise some children to believe in it. And the same thing with that Cortez thing. I don't. We'll see if she gets reelected. I don't know. But anyway, how did I get off on all that? Let me have a chicken heart. Okay, so the chicken heart thing. This was the whole reason I started this thing. Actually, I just wanted to do a live stream, and then the chicken hearts were coming on the plate. So I came up with a theme. Okay, chicken hearts are really good to eat. If you've never had a chicken heart, they're really, really good. They're actually better than the gizzards. But chicken heart is a terrible thing to be or to have. And I think a lot of us, myself included, we've given up. We've put down our packs. Dear Lord, I just saw something Kevin put up. Hey, Mr. Womble, I'm doing good, sir, and yourself. Hey, Tobacco Roll, your troll food stamp Sally is great. Kevin just said that the Cortez woman said that climate change would keep her from adopting. Okay, now we all know this woman is dumb as a bag of cats. I mean, she's just an idiot. But these children are already here, and she says the climate change will keep her from taking care of a child that's already here. That is beyond ridiculous. But then again, she's beyond ridiculous. We are down to 26 people. We were up to a high of 31 at some point. So there you go. I guess that's all I wanted to say was, be strong. We live in trying times, but one of the great things about living in our society is that there's so few strong men that the few that we have can have an incredible impact. I mean, just a stupid outsized influence. If we're willing to stand strong, if we're willing to take a little bit of, I won't say anything about her college degree, prepper vet. If we're willing to take the heat, and I understand why some people don't. I don't take all the heat. I don't have my full name on here. I don't tell you guys my last name. Oh, Katy Perry. Yeah, Lefty Gatekeeper. That chick, she just admitted it straight up, though. I admire her honesty. She said at one time that she sold her soul to the devil. Degree in mixology. You know, I don't take on every battle. Suicide is not a strategy. Uh, One day I'm going to do a video of my 5 favorite sayings that aren't scripture, and that's going to be one of the, close to the top. Suicide is not a strategy. It is not an indictment of your character or your courage that you don't take up your rifle right now and charge the Pentagon. That's suicide. That's not a strategy. There's a great book, and we've talked about it before. It's called Total Resistance by von Dock. It was, I believe it's Sweden. The Swedish military put this thing out as a plan of resistance in case the Soviets invaded. And all the tactics are very, very old, and very few of them are any good, although some of them still are. But he talks about the organizing a resistance. And we're in the organizational phase. We have ideas we believe in, and we have things that we wanted to see accomplished. We can't rush out and be foolish to try to accomplish those goals, because that won't accomplish those goals. That's what they want. They want a couple of guys, John Brown is self-imposed exile suicide. No. John Browning or John Brown? John Browning. Someone tell me who I'm talking about. I can't remember if it's John Brown or John Browning. John Brown, right? Yeah. Brown? Okay, y'all remember John Brown? This was like 1850 something. He abolitionist, him and his sons, and he had Brown. Thank you, Kevin. He had a couple of sons. He had like 5 or 6 sons, if I recall. They freed some slaves, very righteous thing to do, and then they took over a federal armory, and I want to say it was Harper's Ferry. And he had it in his head that he was going to inspire this great uprising, and free the slaves. A very righteous, good thing to do. But he didn't. He committed suicide. Him and all of his sons, and those slaves who, as if they didn't have enough troubles already, those slaves who he had liberated, they all died. I believe they were hung. A couple of them were hung. Those who didn't get killed in the fight. All right, he was on the right side, but he was stupid and he accomplished nothing. How much better would it have been if those, let's say there were 5 of them, if those 5 sons of his, he had raised them up as dedicated abolitionists, and they could have taken the fight on. His raid accomplished nothing. It was a suicide, and he lost his most valuable contribution, his sons. And someone just asked for an update on the base of fire rifle. It looked like it was Bill or Dill. Dill, the base of fire rifle is so I got the binary trigger into the lower, which was surprisingly easy once I got done being a butterfingers about it. Once you figure out the process, it's really, really easy to drop in. So Ponder on it had sent us a new upper with a barrel, and I had bought a new nickel boron coated bolt carrier group from Palmetto State Armory. So I dropped that bolt carrier group in that new upper, and went to the range. And by the way, we want to thank all of our Patreon supporters. All of that stuff is due to the Patreon guys. They get nothing. There's nothing special on our Patreon page. There's no content over there other than me telling them thank you, and they come and help us out like that and support us. Anyway, so I took it to the range and it didn't work. I have been in touch with Ponder on it to see if he has any ideas. We think it might be the bolt carrier group. We took the upper. There was a guy who went to him at the range. He had a 300 blackout upper, so I took his 300 blackout upper and put it on my lower with the binary trigger, and it worked great. And I blew off a magazine of his 300 blackout on. It's called Echo mode, and it's better than firing a saw in my opinion. I haven't fired the saw much, but I fired it a little bit, enough to be familiar with it. And I mean, it's not the same rate of fire, but it's like more controllable and more aimed. I'm not a machine gun guy. I haven't spent that. I shouldn't say it's better than a saw. me firing it that little bit, I can see where it has the capabilities to do what we want it to do. So I got to figure out what's wrong with this upper. I don't know if maybe I got like feed ramps mixed up or something. So there's this alteration called M4 feed ramps. And if you have it on the barrel but not the lower, or if you have it on the lower and not the barrel, I don't remember how it all works. So we got to see if that's wrong. It could be that bolt carrier group. So I need to switch in my old bolt carrier group out for that nickel boron and see if that helps. Here's the problem. We went to the range and my rifle didn't work, but there were a bunch of other rifles there that worked great. And I blew all my ammo. I shot almost every single round. I think I've got a magazine and a half left. So, I got to wait till those Patreon guys throw more money at me next month before we do a whole lot more testing. So that's where the base of fire rifle is at right now. I do have a barrel nut. I'm missing something in the chat. Someone's praying. I'm sorry I missed something, and I'm being flippant, guys. I just didn't see it. And it looks like the chat is way behind for me because someone's just talking about Harper's Ferry. I've got the barrel nut. I've got it's a heat sink barrel nut. I've got to find a wrench to put it on. I think I'm just going to take it to a gunsmith and have him do it and make sure it's done right. And then I've got this Odinworks free float handguard, but the barrel that it's around is rusting underneath that handguard, and I don't have a really good way to clean underneath the handguard. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm thinking I might, when I've got a stainless steel fluted barrel, that I might put that Odin's Work handguard on and do something with. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind. All right, Warren, take care of the baby. I'm sure that was 20 minutes ago, though. Retard says, hello, old friend. I hear I'm in jeopardy being your friend, but you are my brother. Thank you, retard. I think, is that you, Shannon? Prepper Vet just came on. What's with the video title? Well, the Duke of Gizzard is a play on the Dukes of Hazzard. Just a good old boy. Never mean it. I won't do it to you. And the chicken hearts just because I'm eating chicken hearts. And I'm wanting us all to be of good courage. Be of good courage. Quit ye like men. I may be combining two verses there. Hold on a second. Let me read you guys something. All right, so I try not to talk about religion too much. Because it's really important. And you don't want to run people off. But there's this passage I really like. And reminds us that this is a faith for men. Let me see if I can find it. All right. You ready? We'll do this real quick. Just stick with me and we'll get back to fun stuff in a second. What?
I bet food stamp salad was like retarded.
Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon I have given to you. Let's just quick all that. All right, here we go. We're going to start. This is Joshua chapter 1, verse 8. Oh, I swallowed that wrong. And no man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous. Lots of times we hear that, I will not leave you or forsake you. And we think it's God being, telling us that we're good little children and he'll take care of us. But that is immediately followed up with, be strong and courageous. For you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. There's a few more. This book of law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed. Be strong and courageous. Courageous, you can be strong and not do much. But courageous means big, bold deeds. Big, bold deeds. We're called to big, bold deeds. We can't be chicken hearts. We have to be strong and courageous and have big, bold deeds. Now, big, bold, here this dog comes again. Big, bold deeds means that we'll have big, bold mistakes. Big, bold mistakes. To go along with our never mind. But big, bold deeds and big, bold mistakes. Again, I'll tell you another Marine Corps story. When we were trying to I never saw combat, and I talk about the Marine Corps all the time. You'd think I'd actually been somewhere and done something, but when we would train for a call for fire, we'd call in artillery and mortars. We'd do this thing called bracketing, and they would tell us, call for where you think it is, but then when it hits, don't try to finesse it. Don't try to get that exact right coordinates to get the exact. Make a big, bold adjustment, and you may miss again. That's fine. But now make another big, bold adjustment the other way. If you're going to be wrong, be very wrong. Don't be timid and wrong. I saw this on a really bad movie. I can't remember the name of the movie. It was like they were in Brazil and someone was harvesting the organs out of tourist dog. I can't talk and do this at the same time. I'm sorry. He wants love, and I can't do it. I can't multitask. This doctor was talking to his henchman who had not caught some tourist, and he said, in any situation, you want to do the right thing. You'd rather not do the wrong thing, but you can never do nothing. You can never do nothing. I am so bad about that. I just like to sit on the couch and stare at my navel. Oh, look, there's a new piece of lint. And I will contemplate my belly button and the position of the lint inside my belly button. And I can't do that. I'm called to be courageous. That means I have to be taking risks. I have to be doing things that are dangerous. We're called to do dangerous things. Be strong and courageous. I will say it again and again and again. Be strong and courageous. Fear not. Fear not. Be strong and courageous. We can't go down into the bomb shelter and wait until it's all over. We may fail. We may fail. We may have a big, bold mistake, a giant goose egg failure. But that's okay. We were strong and courageous. That's a great passage of scripture. I get so mad at the modern church because it's so feminized and weak, and it's all, you just gotta love. It's all about a relationship, brother. You just got to love him. And then they talk to you about your wife, and they'll say, brother, you just got to love her with the love of Christ. And they talk about your children and say, do not provoke them to wrath. Love them. Well, first off, they don't know what love is. Love is not about being nice to people. That is almost the last thing love is being nice to people. Like, if you're loving really, really, really good people, then you can be nice to them. But unless these are really good people, being nice is the most unloving thing you can be. But we tell men, you just got to be nice. You just got to be this nice little guy and go to work and make sure you pay everyone's bills and make sure you affirm them and help them meet their dreams. And that is not it. You were called to be strong and courageous. Kevin and I have talked. Kevin and I have talked about this stuff a lot. Kevin and I are part of a community sort of separate from a lot of what you'll hear on the Revolting Man channel. We've talked about the biblical families before, but we're part of a community that's really focused. Actually, I'm in self-imposed exile. Tobacco Roll, you asked if self-imposed exile was suicide? No, it's not, because I'm on a self-imposed exile from biblical families right now. But this group is really dedicated to seeing what God says about marriage and doing marriage and families the way God says. And a couple of times, Kevin and I have gone over this a lot. We won't get into it now, except to say that Kevin's got a lot right. We may disagree on a few little things, but not much anymore. Anyway, I enjoy arguing with Kevin, so I don't want to give in too much in case I want to argue with him again in the future. I don't want to have completely capitulated here. But I don't want to talk about the love of Christ. But you're not called to be a nice guy. Jesus was not a nice guy. Jesus was a son-of-a-bitch. This is a guy who braided a whip. This was malice aforethought. It's not just that he got mad and kicked over a couple tables. He went and made the weapon and went back. Now, who was he hitting with that whip? Was he just cracking it on like a bullfighter, cracking it, making noise? Hell no. Hell no. Who was he using that whip on? He was using it on people. He was whipping people and stealing their property. What he did was the legal definition of stealing. He went in there and drove off their animals, their merchandise. He drove them off. Legally, he stole from those people. He assaulted them. He like disorderly conduct, affray, assault, public drunk. I don't know. I'm not going to say that. This was not a nice guy. You read some of the things he said to the Pharisees, and they were literal profanity at the time. When he says I don't remember exactly, because Paul does some of it too. And I don't want to start quoting Paul as Jesus and Jesus as Paul. But both of them used just terrible profanities in public. And to the people of the time, they were profanities. They were swearing. These were not nice guys. These were hard, tough, strong, courageous men who were willing to risk things. We sometimes when we talk about Jesus, when I was a kid, I was a young kid, and my mom was watching a movie about the Passion of the Christ, and my mom has just this, hey Wes, how you doing, sir? My mom just has this heart for Jesus. She's just in love with Jesus. We don't agree on a lot of religious stuff, but I can tell you she just loves Jesus. And she wanted me to come watch this movie about the Passion and see how Jesus was suffering for me. And I was like, oh, it's okay, Mom. He's Jesus. He's strong. He can take it. So we talk about Christ sometimes, and we're like, oh, the Godhead. He's all God, all man. Sure he can. But he had 12 disciples with him. He had more than 12 too. He had hundreds, thousands at times. But there were people who went against the Sanhedrin, who went against the Pharisees, who were really hard on those Pharisees sometimes, and we shouldn't be. They were a lot right. They were mostly right. I could get in trouble sometimes when I say that, and I won't argue about you with it right now. But we're hard on those Pharisees sometimes. But these disciples, the 12, and then there was I think it was 77 or 70. There was the 12, and then there were 70, and there were a bunch more around that. These guys risked everything. They left everything. They were strong and courageous. They made big, bold mistakes. What's Kevin saying? It went away before I could read it all. We turned Jesus into this hemp-wearing, sandal-wearing, hemp sandal-wearing hippie who, worked with children. Let the little children come to me. This is not who that guy was at all. He did those things, but he did them from a place of strength. At his core, he was the guy with the whip in the temple. He was the guy who could take an ass kicking like nobody else, who was hard-nosed enough to not only get in people's face and draw a hard line and stand there. He stood there despite what he knew was coming. Again, let's not talk about Jesus because he's God, right? He can take it. That's not the right attitude. But let's talk about Peter. Peter was a successful businessman. He was the upper middle class. He walked away from that. Two guys left their father. Y'all know the stories. I won't bore you. The point being, I had a friend a few years ago. He was a fellow Marine, but I didn't know him in the Marine Corps. I just met him later. Big, strong guy. He's in one of the videos, a much later video. Big, strong guy. Would do strongman competitions and pick up cars 13 times. And but not only was he a big, strong guy, he just had one of those forceful personalities, and just men loved to be around him. And at the same time, he manages to be humble. He's a neat guy, a great guy. When I met him, he was leaving the Christian faith and he was going to become an Odinist. He was going to worship Odin because he was so disgusted with the men in the church, weak men run by their wives. We can say whatever we want, but you can't read the Bible and think a woman should be in charge. It's not what it says. Now, if you want a woman to be in charge and you reject the Bible, that's fine. You're being honest. I admire your integrity, sir. But we have saw these Christian men who want to be weak and in the background and not have to do anything. And he was leaving the church to go worship a God that no one has heard from in thousands of years. Well, let's not say thousands. Let's say the Vikings started converting to Christianity around 900. So let's say, what is this word? Let's say 1,000 years. No one's heard from this guy for 1,000 years. No one's worshipped this guy for 1,000 years. And no one really knows how they worshipped him back then anyway. And this smart guy, he's a smart guy, was going to leave a faith, a vibrant faith, well, it's maybe not as vibrant now, but a still living faith with a God that can at least claim to still be around, to go worship Odin because he was so disgusted with the men around him. He didn't. I'm not going to say it was because of me, but it's because of me. No, I'm kidding. He probably was going to come back anyway. This guy's a smart guy, and he was never going to be able to worship Odin. But I was able to be a part of him not leaving the faith because I'm like, what, are you crazy? You're stupid. Don't be stupid. Good guy. I've lost contact with him. I hate it. But that's life. But we can't be these weak, feminized men. And you know what? Every time I do a live stream, this is where I end up. I end up back to, well, of course, but that's what the channel's all about. As a revolting man, I'm revolting. If you're in revolt, you're in direct opposition. You stood up and you shook your fist. Here, we'll shake this fist. Well, shook your fist at the system. And that's really what the channel's about. We live in a. Kevin got his pulpit time revoked for calling out the men in my congregation for laying down and rolling over for the women in the church. That sounds like Kevin, actually. We live in a corrupt world. We live in a dying society. We live in a world where the willfully weak. Now, you can be, people can be weak through no fault of their own, and we shouldn't run roughshod over those people. Strength is not anger and violence necessarily, although sometimes it calls for it. But the willfully weak, if you are willfully weak, and then you want to run other men down so that you can then be willfully weak, that is some kind of evil, sir. That is some kind of evil. And yes, you should be opposed. I have a set of experiences that a lot of men have with divorce and the family justice system and child support. So sometimes my views on these things are I won't say skewed, but they've been firmly set by circumstances that not all men, but a lot of men have experienced. Everyone who's ever oppressed me in my life, and I have been oppressed, it was done by a man with a gun. Now, he had a little shiny badge on his shirt, but no woman has ever directly oppressed me ever once in my life. She had men with guns come and do it, and their shiny little badges meant they got to get away with it. But men, the men who oppress other men, the men who, sorry, I think I got a finger in here. The men who, the men who enable this corrupt society to oppress the other men, those are, I won't say they're evil. I won't even say they're despicable. But they're close. Now, some of them are just stupid. Some of them don't realize what they're doing. And it's not just cops. It's not just, men with badges. We all do it. I've done it in the past where a woman left a man, and the first thing I said is, well, what did he do? How did he screw that up? The default position on so much of us men is we want a white knight. And anything a woman Now, and here I'm going to get religious on you again. This gets really close to something terrible. This white knighting thing, this desire to support any woman and be nice to her, it's embedded in, maybe not embedded, but it is very close to adultery, where we want these women to like us so they might be sexually available to us. And these are women, especially when we're doing it against another man, these are women that are not available to us. These women are bound to that man. It is a terrible thing if we come between a man and the woman that is bound to him. That is not a very popular thing to say, and that's why I'm a revolting man. I am revolting from society, and I'm revolting to society. They hate me as much as I hate them. But those men that enable this system, those men that prop it up, there's not 100 women in the whole world. The tacos in jail sucked, yeah. And that lady across the street lost her house and moved back to California. Where was I? Oh, those men that enable this because they think they're special or because they want to be the hero or they want a white knight, these men, they need a wake-up call. We need to stop, well, anyway, I don't know what to say about that. We are not oppressed by women. Some of us submit to women. We are oppressed by men who submit to women, though. It is, and this is why we should be hard on each other. When we see a man submitting to his wife or to any woman, we need to be hard on that man. We should ostracize that man because that is a man who is then going to turn around and use the resources he acquires through that submission and oppress us. He's gonna get elected to Congress, or he's gonna be a judge, or he's gonna call defects on someone who he thinks is too hard on his children. Thank God that hasn't happened to me yet. I'm not that hard on my children. I'm a little hard, but I'm not that hard. I'm firm. I'm firm but fair. Clara Lyons over here, who knows? We could ask her what she thinks about that. So I'm sorry I got off on a rant. I don't even remember what started all that. I don't have any chat coming up. I don't know what anyone's saying. Lefty Gatekeeper, moral crisis, and the spirit of Antichrist is here. The spirit of Antichrist has always been here, but the moral crisis is something new. It blows my mind how lost this country is. I mean, stupid stuff. And it was the chicken lips that started it all. This transgendered thing, and I know it gets talked about a lot, but it just blows my mind that there's no moral clarity on this. This horrific child abuse is being foisted on boys. It's usually boys in this country. It's girls in England. It's interesting how it works. They'll diagnose these boys at 2 years of age. Kids as young as 2 getting diagnosed as transgendered. And we're all like tiptoeing around this, and we're talking in hushed tones about it. That's a horrific child abuse. That's the type of stuff the Nazis did on the Jews in the concentration camps. All right? These are sick, twisted, evil. They're not medical experiments. It's a mutilation and a torturing of a child, and we have no moral clarity on that, and we're scared to speak up. Me too. By the way, I'm talking about it here with 27 of you guys, but I don't have a video entitled "Transgenderism is a mutilation and torturing of a child." I haven't made this big public statement and charged up the hill, even though it scares me to death. And it's a horrible thing. Horrible thing. One of my conspiracy theories, I have lots of conspiracy theories, but one of them is that this transgender thing, it's connected to a doctor who was a German guy with kind of no known background. And I haven't done the research. I shouldn't say this in public. I can't help but wonder if he wasn't one of these Project Paperclip, Nazi guys they brought in to try to get his technology. I don't know, but he was sort of the father of this. I haven't done the research, and someone might be able to debunk that very easily, because I don't want to. This guy is a sick. If he wasn't a part of the Nazis, he was still just a monster. But he was the father, or one of the progenitor, maybe not the father, but one of the modern conduits for this thing to get started. And he did just twisted. There's not words for what he did. It's just twisted. But we don't have a moral clarity on that. That a child who doesn't even know, he probably maybe doesn't even really have a concept of his genitals at all. Maybe doesn't even really isn't even, recognizes them, and we're going to diagnose that this kid can decide that he wants them to get chopped off one day. Sick. But what do you expect from a country, with abortion like we have? It's just terrible. Yeah, and Lefty Gatekeeper is just hitting the nail on the head right here, because they're pushing it on very young children, and they're bringing it into the school. And now this is in Canada right now. It hasn't got here yet, but don't kid yourself to think that it doesn't. In Canada, there's a province in Canada where if a teacher or a guidance counselor thinks your child is transgendered and you're not supportive enough, they can get them ripped out of your home. Child Protective Services, whatever they're called up there, will come to their home, they will take them away, and they will put them in treatment. Now, once that process is started, there's no voice of reason anywhere in there. There's no one who's going to evaluate that child objectively and to make sure that this is a correct diagnosis. Because the very fact that you're willing to be involved with this at all says that you're a sick, evil person to begin with, that just wants to mutilate and torture children. So once some silly, stupid little teacher who might just be straight out of college looks at your child and says, "Oh, he's gender non-conforming. He must be a woman." That's it. That child's out. And the next thing they know, they're 25 years old and completely undateable and with no prospects of children. Yeah, Kevin Sweeney, this drag queen story time. Who in their right minds thinks this is, and no one, and you can't be in your right mind and think this is even remotely okay. These are people who are willing to expose their children to something that they know is bad for social acceptance. Oh, look at me, I'm virtue signaling. Oh, I'm hurting my children, but maybe not too much. What's going on with Chris H?
Southern California.
Oh, okay. Burden said leave, and I didn't know that. These men, now, drag queens aren't transgendered, and I hate it that I know all this about this stuff. A drag queen isn't necessarily even gay. It's a man who likes to dress up in a caricature of a woman and perform. This has no place in a library. A woman who dressed like that and behaved like that has no place in the library. They're acts, and it's an act. If you're a drag queen, you have an act. They're full of sexual innuendo and some weird, twisted view of sexual coquetry. It has no business being around children. Even if it wasn't a drag queen, if it was a woman, a drag queen is essentially a burlesque show. I mean, the two things are very, very similar. A drag queen and a burlesque show there's very little difference between them. This doesn't belong in a library, let alone children's story time. And if you're a parent, and I know none of you guys are, but it's mind-boggling to me that people want these children. It's story time. How old are these kids? 6, 7 at the top end. They want them sexualized. They want them to have to deal.
I don't want my 6 and 7-year-old to have to deal with sex, even on a heterosexual level. He doesn't have, it's not important to his life. They play with Legos. This is not stuff they should be confronted with on any level. Not on, you know, uh, heterosexual marriages, the way God intended it and the way he spelled it out for us is a wonderful, good thing. My children at this age, the 6 and 7-year-olds and below, they don't need to be confronted with that. That's just not important to their lives, and I wouldn't expose them to that. If I did expose them to that, you all would think I was a sick bastard, and you would rightly call Child Protective Services on me. But as long as it's a cross-dresser, then it's okay. And that's not okay. It's just sick, 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 sick. And here's the problem. We're not at the bottom yet. When I was in high school, I graduated in 1995. We did not have a single out gay person in my class. Now, there were 2 guys that there was no questions about. I mean, we all knew, but they weren't technically out. Except the one who asked me out. I guess he outed himself to me. Anyway, we won't go there. I It's just like, I was as butch could be, man. I have my stepdaughter is my youngest stepdaughter. You're in 8th grade, 7th grade. She has multiple, as in more than you could count on one hand off the top of your head, of people who are out or transitioning, or stuff we didn't even really know about as a senior in high school. These 7th graders have multiple, and this is in a small little town in northeast Georgia. We're the buckle of the Bible Belt, and this stuff is this far along now that 7th graders are dealing with it on a significant scale. I think it was Lefty Gatekeeper who talked about the moral crisis. It is a moral catastrophe. You can't one up crisis. And this is another place where men have to stand up, because it is men who have that objective, naturally just outlook on the world, where we can draw that hard line and say, this is right and this is wrong. That's hard for women to do sometimes. I have an analogy I used to use about a moral compass. If you have a compass, and I'm going to tell another Marine Corps story. We had the lensatic compasses in the Marine Corps, and I was a tow gunner, which we shot this big old missile that could technically be ground mounted, never was. It was always in a vehicle. So if you were going to use your lensatic compass, you had to get outside of the vehicle, because this big metal Humvee would screw with the magnetics of the compass. Well, this is an analogy for men and women. Women have a moral compass, but it's heavily shrouded and protected by their emotions and their love and their calling, and what the mission God's given them requires them to have this. And it's not like they don't have a moral compass, but it's easily for that needle to be moved. Men wear that compass out away from the Humvee. We naturally, and it could just be because we're assholes, I don't care. We can disassociate ourselves sometimes, and justice and moral clarity can be easier for us. And that's why the world wants us out. That's why they're trying to silence us. That's why they want to promote women. That's why they want women in, they want women in everything. They want more women. Because women, I love women. I have daughters who I am desperately in love with. That's not their calling. That's not what God created them for. That moral clarity is our job, and we're not doing it. We're not standing up and saying this is evil, this is wrong, this is uncountenance. You can't countenance this. Uncountenance. I can't. I'm gonna make up a word again. And that's what we have to do. We have to start standing back up. It was big in the abortion debate for a long time, where they'd say, "No uterus, no opinion." We can't we can't countenance that anymore. We can't let someone shut us up because they try to shout us down. We're men. No one can shout louder than we can. We have the loudest, deepest voices there are. But we're letting them, because again, we're trying to be that nice guy. Oh, I just want you to be happy. Man, if you have daughters and a man tells you that all he wants to do is make your daughter happy, you punch that man and you get him out of his house. That is a sick, sick man. Or at least a very deceived man. Or he's lying to you and he just wants you to, like him. Either way, get him away from you. If that is his goal, then your daughter is simply going to be unhappy and the marriage is not going to go well. I may have run out of... no. Kenneth H. says, no uterus, no opinion, no taxation without representation to fund Planned Parenthood. That's a good way to look at it. All right, if I don't have an opinion, you can't have my money. Okay. Do we have anything to talk about? You're watching the comments, right? Mm-hmm. Is anyone saying anything? Tell you this, my gizzards got cold. Now I have a cold chicken heart. Well, I love these things and I would go on forever. Brie Larson. Caroline really wants to get me spun up. Retard, fierce lab meat. Hey, Jessica. Hi, Jessica. Mariah says hi. Oh, that's for you, actually. That's what the M is for. You know what? Let's talk about that lab meat for just a minute. I'm sure most of you pay attention to how is the support rifle. We got the trigger in. No Walmart. We got the trigger in. We have a problem with the upper we were using. The barrel is ordered, actually. I didn't talk about it earlier. The barrel is on the way. Anyway, you know what? I'll do a video on it soon. I'll do a video on it this week. Gosh, where was I? I was about to say something, and what was I talking about? Oh man. Oh, the meat. I don't know how many of you are following the Grand Solar Minimum. I'd imagine most of you are at least. Thank you, Chris. That's very kind. I'm sure most of you are at least familiar with it. Pay attention. You know, I'm never want to be a fearmonger or prepper porn. But, oh man, some of this stuff they're talking about with the Grand Solar Minimum, it sounds pretty solid. I don't know, man. You know, a lot of our modern food production is in those more northern latitudes. And if this thing is even half right, you know, if our last freeze and first freeze moves, you know, by a month either direction, we're talking about massive shortages in food. Now, we have the most guns and the most money in the world. So will it affect us? I don't know. It's possible. You know, the gringo gets what he wants. I don't know. But it's not a guarantee. So if you're not up on the Grand Solar Minimum, look into it and decide what you think. I am, like I said, I'm the guy who fell for Y2K. But there was a lot of us who fell for Y2K. So I try to be cautious anymore. Although I still think Y2K was possibly a big deal. So if you're not familiar with the Grand Solar Minimum, I'll go in and get into it. It's this idea that the the temperature on the earth is driven by the sun, and how that is controversial, I will never understand. That just seems, you know, blindingly obvious to me. And the sun goes through cycles, and the cycles go through cycles, and all of these cycles are bottoming out on us right now. It's not supposed to get really bad till 2030 supposedly, but it's not supposed to be. Well, anyway, so there's a chance food production will be affected because frost dates, are first and last freeze date, dictate when you can start planting and when you have to harvest by. So places that used to get 2 harvests might only get 1, and some of these places where we grow a lot of grain and sunflowers and wheat and stuff, in the more northern latitudes, they might not have a 4-month growing season anymore. This has happened within modern history. There was a year, and I don't remember which year it was, in America. It was called the Year Without a Summer, sometime in the 1800s, I think, where there was not one month without a freeze in it. It froze every month of the year. So, just pay attention. I think Pastor Fox says have a year of food setback. I know that's a lot of storage. Not everyone has that much access to store. That's funny. But at least think about it. And you know what I would say? Grow something. It doesn't matter if you just put a potted tomato plant on your porch. What are those little things on the outside of apartment buildings? They're not called porches, but a patio, whatever. Just have a some kind of basic familiarization with how a plant grows, and just eating something you grew yourself. Just a tomato plant, pepper plant. Just do something. Because I am not entirely sure that at some point in the next 10 years, we're not going to need to. It's just the way the world's going. Especially, the baby boomers are about to start dying off. The Gen Xers, is it Gen Xers? I think it's the Gen Xers who come after the baby boomers. We are dying off at a stupid rate. I think I'm a Gen Xer, I think is what it is. My generation, we're dying from these diseases of despair. We're drinking ourselves to death. We're eating ourselves to death. We're having all these obesity problems and drug problems, and we're dying at an alarming rate. I mean, it's kind of scary. We're already, I'm 40. I'm about to be 44, and I don't remember when Gen X started, but I don't think we're older than 50. We could be. We're already dying at this rate. As we get older, it's going to accelerate. That is a major population drain. And see, what's happened is the boomers have held on to power for so long. They've been the business leaders and the government leaders. They're all about to die. Right as the next generation coming up is not prepared to take leadership. This generational changeover, this handover, could really be when we see things go downhill and fast, because there's just not a lot of us. The Army got one leg in the grave at 70. Glory be. Or was it praise be? What did he used to say? It was praise be. Praise be. The Army's having a hard time finding recruits. Well, that's what happened with Rome. When the Roman Empire fell, the very first symptom is when they had to start recruiting barbarians, and by barbarians, by the way, they meant our ancestors. They were recruiting the Germanic tribes. We were the sign that their empire was about to fail because they couldn't fill their military anymore. The Army has said something like 65% of American youth are unfit to serve. They physically, literally can't serve. We're there now. What comes next? I don't know. One of the I've talked about this before. I really have a big interest in the French Revolution. I've read a lot about the French Revolution. I won't say I've studied it, but I've consumed a lot of material about the French Revolution. And it's interesting to me to wonder what type of empire America is. Are we more like the French Empire, or are we more like the Roman Empire? Because that dictates a lot of what happens next. You know, the Roman Empire was this sort of this slow, steady, sustained collapse. It was just this malaise that lasted for centuries, and suddenly everyone woke up one day and realized, oh, we're in the Dark Ages. The Romans are gone. Or the French had this cataclysmic implosion all at once. Just a stupid. It's really interesting. But Caroline got a photo bomb. So, which one are we? Are we the French Revolution, where we're going to wake up one day and suddenly we're chopping everyone's heads off? Or are we the Roman Empire, and we wake up one day and just realize the barbarians took over and we're irrelevant? It's an important question to answer, because if it's the French Empire route, terrible things came out of the French Revolution. If you read about there's the Vendée, there was this counter-revolution to the French Revolution where these very conservative, rural, religious people didn't want to be a part of this crazy atheist thing that was going on in Paris. And Burden says we're the Romans, and so they revolted against the revolution, and so the Paris Revolution, because it really was a kind of a Paris thing. There were some other cities involved, but it was I'd say it was an urban thing. It was a city thing. It was like Paris and Lyon and whatever, Orleans or whatever it was. Chris says we're French. We only admire weirdness. They got together and they went down to the Vendée, and they brutally suppressed that counter-revolution. More people died in the Vendée in the counter-revolution than died in Paris at the guillotine. There were food shortages. There was turmoil so I think the revolution started in 1789. Don't quote me on that. And by 1792, basically Napoleon came out of the French Revolution. They were so tired of the craziness that they turned to this very Roman-esque tribune. There was 3 of them, but Napoleon kind of came out on top. So then, they elected him. I think he was president for a while, and then Napoleon declares himself emperor for life. And the chaos and the turmoil that came out of Napoleon, he kept Europe in a war for, I think he was like 12 or 13 years that he was emperor. It was just nothing but warfare, and he destroyed Europe, remade it, and that French Revolution went through Napoleon, and it went through some little things in 1848. Where there were some more revolutions, and there was this thing called the Paris Commune, which was another revolution, and it led directly to the Bolshevik Revolution, the Russian Revolution that the Bolsheviks took. And that series of events that started in 1789 with the French Revolution didn't culminate until the end of the Cold War. You can draw a direct line from the French Revolution in 1789 all the way up to the end of the Cold War, and really beyond. I mean, it was a world-altering event in the way it had altered Europe and affected America. World War I, World War II, the Franco-Prussian War, all the restored empire, the June monarchy. I could go on and on and on. I love this stuff. All of this stuff, all these cataclysmic events were spawned by this revolution in Paris in 1789 that was never supposed to be a revolution. How it started was this crazy thing. The King Louis the 16th or 17th, I can't even remember which one. He just called the Congress. France had a Congress that didn't get called very often, and he called the Congress because he needed to raise taxes and reform the tax code. And they were called the Estates General, is what they called them. There was 3 sets of them. There was the nobility was one estate, the clergy was another estate, and then everyone else was the 3rd estate. And they were just supposed to fix the tax code and raise some revenue because they were broke. and it ended up they ended up declaring a republic. They started this succession of killing each other. Very interesting little tidbit about the French Revolution that is directly applicable today. At one point, it had stalled out, and it looked like it was over. The king had taken his family, and he'd left Paris and gone to Versailles, and he had escaped Paris, which meant he could. They were really worried about him getting to Austria and raising an Austrian army and coming back and suppressing the revolution. A bunch of women, I can't remember, was it the Women's March? I can't remember. A couple hundred Paris women got in a big mob, marched to Versailles, and forced him to come back. And when he came back, that was the last time they tried to flee at one point, but they didn't make it. They got caught close to Austria. But when the women brought the king back to Paris from Versailles, that's kind of when the French Revolution went full retard. Is Jimmy still with us? I get little comments that flip up for a second and then fade away, and I just saw Burden say that Jimmy was lurking. I don't know if that's Jimmy D, if he's still here or not. I can't believe we've still got 29 people when I went on and on about the French Revolution. There is this really interesting podcast, and it really is interesting. This guy does a good job. It's called Revolutions. It's the Revolutions pod. Hey, Music Well, how you doing, sir? Hey, the Sasquatch is here too. You guys missed all the talk about the French Revolution, so hopefully you missed the boring stuff. Mariah's got the live stream up on the computer, which is right in front of me, and the computer's lagging me, so I keep getting distracted by myself. 5 minutes ago, it's kind of like that scene in Spaceballs where they're watching the video. They rewind the video to see what happened, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Jim Beer is here. No one expects a French Revolution. Well, I'll tell you who did expect a French Revolution. King Louis. He had no idea. But anyway, the Revolutions podcast, it's really interesting. He has a whole series on the French Revolution, the English Revolution, which actually should fascinate me more than the French Revolution, because the American Revolution, he has a series on the American Revolution too, but the American Revolution is just a continuation of the English Revolution. It's like the descendants of the same people. All of this stuff is important, though, and I'm boring you with stuff that I haven't explained. The important stuff is almost always boring. Because all these revolutions, all these periods of social turmoil and upheaval, they can give us insights into what's happening to us now. Like I said, are we the French Empire, or are we the Roman Empire, or are we the French Empire? If we can find an archetype that we fit, Jimmy Steve's still here. Thank you for putting up with all the French Revolution stuff, Jimmy. But if we can find the archetype that we fit, we can maybe get a little bit of insight into what comes next, and how much longer it might be before it happens. Yeah, Sasquatch, I don't think they ever did end the Spanish Inquisition. I'll tell you my thoughts on this. Are we the Roman Empire, or are we the French Empire? I think we're the French Empire. Because one of the things that caused the French Revolution was they were broke. They were the premier power in the world at the time, the known world. Obviously, we don't know what's going on in the Far East. I don't. But they were the wealthiest nation at the time, and out of nowhere, they just had to admit they were broke, and it shocked everybody. Everyone thought they were the most powerful, wealthiest nation on earth, and suddenly they find out they were broke. And I think that's the mode we're going on right now. Hey, Patriot Pop. Thank you, sir. Well, I'll text you. And so they thought they were the strongest, most wealthiest nation in the world, and then they found out they were so broke. And that's why I get worried sometimes when people start calling for a constitutional convention. The constitutional convention reminds me just a little bit of the Estates General. the Estates General hardly ever got called up because the king didn't like them getting called up. They didn't have a lot of power, but they had significant power and they could make changes. A constitutional convention is the same thing. It's never really happened. No one knows what's going to come out of a constitutional convention. There's not really that many limits set on it. And we would be sending a very, very small amount of people to go make drastic decisions about our lives. A constitutional convention scares me. It just scares me. I was about to put an epithet on the end of that. Whenever anyone calls for that, I'd say, no, let's just have a revolution. We don't want to trust sending a delegation per state. How many is in the delegation? God only knows what comes out of a constitutional convention. But anywho, I love that stuff. I need to go back and listen to the English Revolution again. I kind of wasn't really paying attention when I listened to that series, and I haven't read much about it. Oliver Cromwell was sort of I wouldn't say he's the George Washington of the English Revolution. He almost is, just it didn't work. You can debate whether it worked or not. It's an interesting, fascinating. But Oliver Cromwell is I'm going to talk about my Patreon for just a minute. There's no exclusive content on the Patreon, so there's no reason to be on the Patreon. But that's why we appreciate the guys who are. Our top tier, we have 3 tiers. It's Patrick Henry is the $1 tier, and George Washington is the $3 tier. And Oliver Cromwell is my top tier. My $5 tier is our top highest tier. Because to me, Oliver Cromwell, so far, what I know about him so far, he's the ultimate revolting man. Love Oliver Cromwell. Neat man. Although, I've just recently found out about another guy who, you guys, any of you who are interested in this sort of stuff, hey, Winfield, how you doing, sir? It's good to see you, Butch. This guy's name is John Ponnet. You just liked his facial hair. He may have been clean shaven, actually, Sasco. I don't know. This guy named John Ponnet, at P-O-N-E-T. Burden's asking interesting questions again. I can't read your questions, Burden, or I'll sit here reading you instead of speaking. I'm sorry. John Ponnet. Oh, this is fascinating history about you all. You've all heard of Henry VIII. Well, all this stuff came out of Henry VIII, and Henry VIII broke with the Catholic Church, and his son Edward died young. But his Edward was this kind of neat guy who really advanced his father's religious reforms. And one of the guys he promoted, this guy was the Bishop of Rochester and the Bishop of Winchester, was this guy named John Ponnet. Well, Edward dies, and his older sister Mary takes over, and Mary was a hardcore Catholic, and so she started oppressing all these Protestants, and Ponnet had to flee. Well, he wrote this book. It's a real short book. I haven't finished reading it yet. I actually had a copy on my phone, and then I lost it. And it is, as far as I know, it's the earliest case made for radical self-autonomy. He specifically calls for the people, and the whole book is laying out a justification for people overthrowing an unjust monarch, an unjust government. He talked mostly about monarchs because that's mostly what he knew. But this guy influenced Cromwell, who came like 100 years later, 120 years later. And then he had a big influence on John Adams and some of our founding fathers. Interesting guy. If I ever add another tier to the Patreon, it'll be the John Ponnet tier. I don't know that I ever will, because I just don't know that there'd be. But I'm actually tempted to demote everybody, get rid of Patrick Henry, make George Washington the first tier, and make John Ponnet the third tier. Interesting guy. The little bit of the book I've read is really, really good. I lost my digital copy I had. I got to try to go get it again. Yes, David, I agree with you entirely. George Washington was a soldier, and he fell under the sway of some politicians when he got elected. And, he didn't really want to be president either. He did it, but he wasn't sold on the idea. Anywho, so we talked about John Ponnet. That was like 1548, maybe 1550. And then Oliver Cromwell was in the 16 somethings, and I don't remember exactly when. Oliver Cromwell was uses the guys on our fake money for tears. They've got to be actual revolting men. They had to be something to do with a revolution. That's why I chose those guys. I was quoting Patrick Henry. Well, that Patrick Henry could give a speech now. That man could wind some stems and burn some barns. Yeah, Tobacco Row. I have some major problems with Thomas Jefferson. I love the things he wrote. The things he said were amazing and inspiring. Aaron Bird did the burgeoning America a favor. Well done. Yeah. I am just leery of Jefferson. The way he lived his life, some of his beliefs, his behavior towards Jefferson, his wholehearted embrace of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. See how it all ties together? Thomas Jefferson was very supportive of the French Revolution. I just don't trust him. He rejected all the miracles in the Bible. He was another one of those guys who edited the Bible. He did some good things. The Louisiana Purchase was a good thing. He handled the whole Barbary pirate situation. TJ had a ghostwriter. But I'm just cautious about anything he. Same way with. I used to really like Ethan Allen. I'd read a book about him when I was like a kid, and it didn't tell me. It just talked about what he did, and then as I got older and got interested in the militia, I was really kind of drawn to Ethan Allen, until I did my homework and I found that Ethan Allen was an idiot, and he almost was one of my tears, and I decided to go research him and make sure, and that's when I found out, this guy's a moron. I don't want to have anything to be associated with him at all. But I know Thomas Jefferson, if you just read what he wrote, every word he ever wrote, I shouldn't say every word, but many of the things he wrote were just brilliant and beautiful and spot on. I get that. But anyone who thinks Robespierre is okay, or Marat, or who was the other guy? Well, any of them. Spill on Ethan Allen. All right, Chris. Ethan Allen, he had a militia. In the early days, he was actually defending against New York. Was it Pennsylvania? Seems like he was defending people in what would become Pennsylvania. No, it was I don't have the details. But he had this militia. I think they were even called regulators. Maybe not. And they would go help farmers in land disputes with rich, powerful people. Some of what he did was good during that period, and some of what he did during that period was very questionable. But he completely rejected the faith, and he wrote this. Him and another guy wrote this big metaphysical book that I don't know what made them think they knew all these things, but they decided they understood the nature of the universe and the truth about the spiritual world, and they wrote this book that was just silly about all their metaphysical beliefs and why they believed Christianity was false. I've only read excerpts of the book. I'm not even sure it really exists anymore. But he just was a silly man with a very, he did that one great thing at Fort Ticonderoga, where they went and got the cannons and brought the cannons down to Boston. So he was involved in this great moment, but the rest of his legacy is, mixed at best. He just, I don't know, and I guess I shouldn't say, I was really about him. Ministry of Silly Walk, sort of strange. I was really excited about Ethan Allen until I did the research, and then I was so disappointed to find out the truth. It's not like he was a terrible person or, a complete lie. It's just that my mustache is uneven. That's awful. Are fleets and armies necessary? Oh, I lost it. Let's not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation. The last arguments to which kings resort. That's John Ponnet, right, Burden? Any idiot can be a hero once. Yeah, and Ethan Allen was something of, maybe not an idiot, but he was not an epic figure. He lived in interesting times, and that's about all you can say for Ethan Allen, in my oh so humble opinion. Unlike, say, the Swamp Fox, who was a significant figure and did represent something important. Francis Marion, I don't remember his name. Hey, Burton, what was that you were just quoting? Don't hold back, man. Oh, Lord, it's almost midnight. So, I don't have anyone watching the comments anymore. I don't know what YouTube decides to show me or why it shows me what it shows me. Francis Marion Tewksbury. No, that's not him. No, not Tewksbury. It was Marion something, though. Or something Marion. Francis Marion, yeah. So I don't know why it shows me the comments it does, but it just shows me a comment. It's like it just showed me Chris. I know it's a quote, but that one word can be alluded to. And Butch is watching. The Sasquatch is related to Tewksbury? Tewksbury is a Sasquatch? So is he like the abominable snowman? That's a bad joke. Oh, my poor chicken hearts and gizzards are cold. Maybe they'll, the old sheriff of Nottingham. Maybe they'll heat up in the microwave. All right, man. I would stay up with you guys all night if you let me. I don't really know what you're saying, though, so I feel like I'm cut out of the loop. But of course, usually you guys. Thanks be. He says thanks be. I don't know why I was thinking you said praise be. Get some sleep, guys. Someone give me something to talk about. What are you guys talking about? Your conversations are always, in the comments, are always more interesting. And now there's no comments. All right. Balkanization. Okay. Great one, Sasquatch. Thank you. Food stamp Sally has been shopping with Tewksbury well over 10 times. Does Tewksbury accept food stamps, Sally? I can't scroll on my... Oh, I can't scroll. Oh, my gosh. Thank you, Chris. I can see them. Oh, that was very kind of you. I had no idea. It just shows me one at a time. But then I can actually scroll up and see the rest of them. Thank you, Chris. Okay, so Balkanization. Fascinating topic. I have read an alternative theory to Balkanization, and it may have some merit. So, that heart meat has nutritional value. It sure tastes good, Brent. So if you're not familiar with Balkanization, the Balkans was another name for the territories that were made into Yugoslavia. After World War I, Woodrow Wilson, who is probably the worst man to ever serve as president, I despise Woodrow Wilson. Whatever you think I think about Thomas Jefferson and Ethan Allen, Woodrow Wilson is the bottom of the list. Mariah says hello. It was a photo bomb. Woodrow Wilson and the French and the English, they just drew all these lines on maps and made countries. Yeah, Okie Storm Chaser, he was evil. Good night, retard. And so they tried to make all these countries with mixed populations so they'd never be able to be strong and oppress their neighbors. And all they made were countries constantly at war with each other. And Yugoslavia was one of those. They put 3 different people groups into this country. It was the Serbians. Oh, shucks, I don't remember the other 2. It was the Serbians, a Muslim population, and somebody else. I can't remember who. And they were constantly at war with each other. And they eventually broke up into 3 separate countries. And thus they call that Balkanization. They went back into their 3 separate countries. So go dogs. Thank you, Desert Wanderer. Woo, woo, woo. Serbia, Bosnia, and Herzegovina. Thank you, Squatch. Hey, Desert Wanderer, I think the Braves beat the Nationals tonight, too. So when they talk about balkanization in other places, they talk about a country splitting up into its separate populations. So like in America, they'll talk about the Southeast splitting off into its own nation, California splitting off into its own nation, the Northeast. They talk about 7. Sometimes I've heard people come up with 12. Texas, I think, always comes up as its own nation, and the Midwest. The Croats. Serbs, Croats, Albanians, Kosovars, Bosnians, and a few others. Where was I? But an interesting theory I saw that says rather than breaking up into all these separate, God is good, all these separate nations, that it might turn into city-states, so that cities may dominate a region. So like Atlanta, might dominate, portions of the Southeast that it could control. If there was a breakup, if America as we know it ceased to exist, collapsed. And so New York City might just dominate all the area around it that it can control. It's lots of martyrs in the Balkans, yes. That was a horrific thing. And the Serbs were by no means innocent, but they were the closest thing to being on the right side, as far as I can tell. Music, well, thank you for being with us, sir. Have a good evening. Someone just said something. Atlanta would implode. Yeah, Atlanta is a special case. Georgia itself is a special case now. Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has the federal government any enemy in its own land? Dadgummit. In its own land to call for all this accumulation of unjust laws and armies? Good quote. Hey, Clancy. How you doing, sir? So, what would happen in America if we balkanized, if we split up? Would Texas be its own nation? Or would oh yeah, the Romani were over there too. Or would Texas find itself rejoining Mexico? Would a lot of that? China can't get to us, Desert Wanderer. They don't have the Navy. That slice of Arizona and Southern California, would all that go back to Mexico? Would the Southeast? I think there's a good chance the Southeast breaks off. But what would be the character of the Southeast? We've got these population centers in Atlanta and Raleigh, and Knoxville and Nashville, and even a little bit in Mobile. That these are not conservative people. These are liberals. And there's a lot of them. They talk about Georgia's turning purple, that we're not a reliable conservative state anymore. North Carolina's been purple for a while. This is a fascinating topic, and I wish I could see more people were talking about it. Texas would be speaking Spanish in a generation. Yep. Balkans are a homeland to militant sects of Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, and Muslims. About China and Russia invading. Like I said, China doesn't have the Navy to get to Taiwan right now with a military force. So they couldn't get to us. Russia might be able to. I'm not sure about that. They're in Mixaco. Convo changer. My line gear weighs 103 pounds with 4.5 liters of water. Wait. I'm way too fat for this and need to change my Oreo habit. Oreos would help. I'm going to show you guys something real quick. Thanks for bringing that up, Chris, because there's something I want to show you guys. It's going to be a video, but I'll preview it here to you guys. This is something else the Patreon guys paid for. I see how well you can see this. This is called a 19th century rangefinder. And you can see it's got graduated numbers. And an object 6 feet tall, you slide it up and down, and an object 6 feet tall, it tells you what range it's at. Obviously, 6 feet tall being the height of a man. Why you would be range finding a man, I don't know. Butch, about where the immigrants are being sent. They are being sent to Minnesota. They are being sent to Clarkston, Georgia. Where else? I had a technical difficulty there. I know we're getting a lot of them in Clarkston, Georgia, and Minnesota. But I think this is an invaluable piece of gear. I got this off of eBay. It was like $19, and by the time they shipped it, it was 22, 23. But range estimation. Yes, Gila, this is live. Range estimation is one of the most difficult parts of marksmanship. Because your bullet, you guys know this. I'm just talking. Your bullet travels in a trajectory. So it's going up for a while, then it's coming down for a while, and if something's at 100 yards, and you shoot them like they're at 500 yards, you're not going to hit. The bullet's going to be on the wrong angle, or you're going to hit. You might hit but be way off. So this, in my opinion, a laser range finder may be more accurate, but it's batteries, it's complication and cost and weight. This is going to go in the grenade pouch on my Minuteman loadout, which is what made me think of it when Chris H. talked about his line gear. And if I don't ever need it, that's fine. If I do, he's 100 yards, he's 150. What a neat capability to have. Si habla no jibber jabber. For very little penalty in weight and complexity, and increased supply, whatever that's called. I am really, really excited about this. It's Tex. I identify now as a Tex identifies as something. Don't cut it off, whatever you do, Tex. You'll regret it. That's what happens when you shoot Soviet weaponry. All that stuff that blows back in your eyes starts messing with your judgment. Then all you'll need is an AK. So I am very, very excited about this. Muy poquito. About this piece of gear. It is brass. So brass isn't necessarily tactical. But I think that little... TRM loves the rusty weapons. Thank you, Sasquatch. I'm still a little bitter that you made me touch that one. Hello, Minnesota Prepper. I'm pretty sure MI is Minnesota Prepper. Might be your initials. So you'll see a lot more about this little piece of gear. Make more videos on marriage and family, please. Okay, Jason, I will. That's a topic near and dear to our hearts. With a red dot. Oh, Michigan. Dadgummit. What's Minnesota then? But you love to gently caress it. Don't make me be mean to you, Sasquatch. You're such a good friend. No deserts in Siberia. And it's Minnesota. Come get some. Military. Oh, MI is military intelligence. Okay. Michigan prepper. That's better. You'd rather be in Michigan than Minnesota anyway. That is it the Upper Peninsula that's kind of so deserted? Anyway, like the Fords have an old abandoned mansion up there that's just crumbling. Oxymoron. Anyway, so very cool. You're a Southern man and you're in Michigan. Are you in Southern Michigan? Okay, Clancy, this one I got off of eBay. The chicken hearts are great, Kevin. Oh, S3. Good job, David. Boy, you pulled that one out of the... Was it S3 or... No, S4 was supply, yeah. Fords crumble all right. What is wrong with you, Tex? Why do you hate everything I love? Jeez. I guess the Volga. What is the German the Soviet cars? I think it's called they're called the Volgas. Yeah, these are on eBay. They're probably on Amazon. I just went to eBay because Bezos is such a liberal piece of trash. I'm running out of places to shop. I can't shop at Walmart anymore. I try to avoid Amazon. If eBay goes full retard on me, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Wonderful car. Uh-oh. We have a Russian linguist in the house. Trabant Pinko car. I guess that's the Russian car, maybe. Anyway, my phone is telling me it's about to die on me, men. So we are going to wrap this up. I really appreciate you guys being with us. I love doing these live streams. I don't do them that often because I like them to stay fresh. And there's other guys doing really interesting live streams. Dotson. Wes S does a bunch of really interesting. Is Wes still in with us? Good night, Chris. I'm sorry, am I prepper? My phone's about to die. Hang in there, comrade. Wes S does a good one. Who else does a good one? Give me a jingle tomorrow. I will give you a jingle tomorrow, sir. Are you going to do a loadout update? Yes, Kenneth, I'm gonna do a loadout update with this. I'm adding this to my loadout, so we're gonna do another loadout update. This is the only real change I've made right now. Good night, Mr. Callahan. Well, except that I currently don't have... Oh, no, I do have the Tomahawk back on the Minuteman gear. It was off for a little while because I lost my holder, but I have found it again. So I am combat effective once more because, you're not combat effective without a Tomahawk. Also, I have a really interesting video coming up to me. Sasquatch lent me a bushcraft knife and another Tomahawk. SOS does a good live stream, and that's what I was thinking of. So we're going to compare the Tomahawk to the bushcraft knife, and I think that's going to be an interesting video. And then I'm going to do a video making all the survival saw guys very angry at me, and I'm loath to do it because Canadian Prepper is subscribed to the channel, and he's all about his survival saws, but I am not a fan. So that video is coming up pretty soon. Anyway, Tomahawk equals tactical. Booyah. Oh, the Hudson Bay trade knife. That should be... Yeah, it's a neat knife. All right, man. We appreciate you. Like I said, what was it? Be strong and be strong and courageous. And someone's in California. Ever get an actual flashlight? Kenneth, we're gonna do something on flashlights soon too. I'm gonna make all the tactical guys really angry. I think flashlights on guns are a bad idea. White lights. And I'm going to do a video on that soon too and get everyone good and angry at me because I haven't done that in a while. So that's coming up. But I don't have a flashlight on my Minuteman gear right now. And stay out of Walmart, yes. How is the painless girl getting along in Texas? If Wes S is still in the room, he would probably know better than I would. I'll see you at the dollar store too, Sally. But the last I heard, she was doing much better. I don't know what the long-term implications are for the young lady, though. I will. My understanding is that the Rob Painless GoFundMe page is still up. It's still active, and okay. So Oki says that Rob was on Wes S's live stream, and we can check on that. Trailblazer 19th century Stadia rangefinder. You can always count on Burton to do the research. But Rob's the GoFundMe page for Rob that Wes is doing is still up, and they have some substantial expenses they need help with. Hey, Kevin, are you going to be in Carolina in November? Oh, great. Burden found one for cheaper than I paid for it. Should have called you, David. Yeah, I think I paid $19.19 for this one, $19.99. But the guy got it to me in like 3 days, so that's fine. Anywho. All right, I'm trying to stop, and then you guys keep being interesting. I'm waiting to see if there's one more interesting comment that comes up. And there is not. Oh, and there's Butch. Thank you, Butch. Looking, okay, Kevin's going to be in Carolina. Military intelligence, Zach. Oh, you want to see the Pyrenees? Sergeant, hey, say hello. Oh. He's not amused. He's a good dog. He irritates me sometimes, but he's a good dog. All righty, man. We appreciate you. Oh, I'd like to know how well that old-fashioned rangefinder ends. Well, yeah, we'll do a big video on it. He's a good dog. He's actually small for the breed. He's only about 100 pounds, and the breed is usually 150 for the males. He was being polite. Yeah. Y'all didn't want to hear what he really had to say. All right, I'm going to go heat up my gizzards and chicken hearts, because that's all chicken hearts are good for is eating. And you men are going to be strong and courageous, and we're going to turn this thing around. Bass Pro has Cheap Wolf and Tula. Hello, Mrs. West S. Mrs. West S, can you give us a quick update on Rob's daughter? Is she how is she progressing? You know, we'll hang on for just a minute and give Miss West S a chance to, because someone had just asked. And I believe, and you can verify this, ma'am, he's not posting his text, David. He's got another new name. It's the son of the return of the reboot of text. And can you tell us, Mrs. West S, if the GoFundMe page is still up? And I would actually... Honda Ruckus. Or Ugly News Network. Where's the Ugly News Network? If you could put a link up, but that might be more difficult. I don't know. But we will hang on for a minute for the Rob Painless update. That is... you know, obviously I don't have direct contact with Rob, but watching from afar, it appears as though they have handled this crushing tragedy. Okay, Mrs. West says it's still up. I won't say well, because I don't know if you can handle it well. Stay on another 30 minutes, but they have handled it far better than I ever could. All right, so the fundraiser is still up. We're waiting to see. They're doing as good as can be expected. How can you give us an update on the daughter? The last I heard, she was out of ICU, but now this was some time ago that I had heard anything. Mainly prayers. Okay, well, we will definitely pray for them. And especially this young woman. Anyway. Oh, Lefty Gatekeeper, I don't know. If I had a topic, I could go for another 30 minutes, but I need something to talk about. Also, my phone's going to die before much longer. All right. Have we finally run out of steam? What's Michael Hagan say? Should you ever find yourselves traveling through Montana, I would love to go to Montana. That's on my bucket list. That's just one of those places. Sarah is still in a wheelchair at least for a few more weeks. So there's a it sounds like there's some optimism in there that she'll be out of the wheelchair. Yeah, Burton, I don't know how many of the messages I'm seeing either. I think I'm not. Well, Mrs. West says, how are you and the Mister doing? I haven't heard from you guys in a while either. Oh, I need to plan a trip to Montana. Apparently, I need to go to bed. I'm supposed to meet with the prepper librarian in the morning at 9 o'clock. She is home, has her foot in a cast. She had screws put in foot and wrist. Ugh. No man survives when freedom fails. The best men rot in filthy jails, and those who cry appease, appease are hanged by those they tried to please. What a great quote. The best men rot in filthy jails. All right. This is my phone. This is my phone telling me we're about to die, and I don't want to just die on you guys and not say goodbye. Oh, I know what I'll say. The new the third book in the Stonemont series is out. Yeah, going to a gun show tomorrow while I still can. We all need to. The Stonemont series is written by Stephen Smith over there at Integrative Preparedness. Wes has some chest congestion, but we are doing well. It's good to hear it. I'm glad to hear it, Mrs. Wes says. Thank you for stopping in, ma'am. Mariah just read the book, and then my father-in-law got a hold of it before I did, so I just got it back tonight. So I'm about to read it. Here is the review so far that I've gotten from both of them. And it is really setting up book 4 hard. That a bunch of different groups and situations have been presented, and it sounds like, and I haven't read it yet, so this is by no means my review on it, but what I've got from both of them is that they're really waiting for book 4 now, because it's really been set up well for book 4. And I don't know how long that will be. However, I have been told that Becky's situation was not resolved yet. So I am still holding out final judgment on the whole Stonemount series until I find out what happens to Becky. I was really disturbed on what happened to Becky in book 1. Was it book 2? Anyway, Becky got shafted. And I didn't even really like Becky that much until she got, I mean, I didn't dislike her, but I didn't care about the character until she got shafted, and now I'm just obsessed with her. So check out the Stonemont in book 3. I haven't read it yet, but Mariah and my father-in-law both have, and they both had good things to say. And like they said, they really feel like book 4 has been set up really well. That's assuming there is a book 4, but according to them, there almost has to be. Miss my Florida gun shows. Giving some guaifenesin. What is guaifenesin? OB misses you, Mrs. FS. Mucinex. That's easier to pronounce than guagamith. What is that, David? Guagamith. Mephifen. It is a decongestant. It also sounds like a godless communist word. Is Tex still in here? Did he throw that one out there? Hey, we have 27 people, but 31 likes. That is awesome. Who is Obi? You know, I have a son who we're going to call Obi when he gets a little bit older. We have a naming tradition of the men in our family, and his is the one that most closely comes out Obi. My phone is actually really going to die on us, though, man. I do appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with me. You guys, Oberon. Okay. Oberon. No, okay. Well, now I'm going to talk again for a minute. I'm going to tell you something about me. In my younger years, in my first marriage, I fancied myself something of a thespian. And I did a couple of Shakespeare plays, and one of them I did was Midsummer Night Dream, which is the character I played in that was Oberon. He was the king of the fairies. Shut up. Don't say another word. All right? Thespian. Just because I was the king of the fairies doesn't mean you got to start jumping to conclusions, all right? Jeez. Oberon was the king of the fairies. It was a very manly role. Shut up. So I have a connection to the name Oberon. I was Oberon. All right, we're going to sell Revolting Man t-shirts. We just need a good design. Butch is laughing at me. No, seriously, it was San Francisco play. And with a Midsummer Night Dream of Oberon. Stop it. Jeez. We're going to lose some of our likes. Oh, and Sasquatch had to go the Navy route. Oh. Shakespeare was a pseudonym. Like, what's on library? Too much alcohol. I haven't had any alcohol. Miss West S is laughing. The Office of Bottom Inspection. There's a reason why Marines have name tapes on their trousers. We won't go any farther into that. Except to say that it's so the sailors will know who they're looking at. Okay. All right. I guess this has gotten as bizarre as it can possibly get. I've got to go microwave my gizzards and chicken hearts. So the Navy chiefs know who they be. Men, we do appreciate you. Thank you very much. We will talk to you again soon. You guys have been a great encouragement to me. This channel helps keep me sane and makes me feel like maybe I'm not doing nothing with my life. So you guys have been a huge encouragement to me. Thank you and good night, men. Be strong and courageous.